Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. This time we're going to get into the heart of Toronto's reggae scene.
Yeah, we've got a super interesting mix of sources lined up for you today. We're talking online articles, audio clips, even some social media posts. And it all revolves around this amazing woman named Debbie Droppit.
Oh, I know Ems Robin.
Yeah, exactly. MS Droppin' It online. She is dedicated to collecting and curating vintage reggae. And we're not just talking about, your typical Spotify playlist here.
No, no.
Think rare cassettes, old radio recordings, real underground gems. But Debbie's story, it goes way beyond just the music. It's about this whole community, a whole cultural history that might have been lost without her.
Yeah, you know what really struck me about her project, this MS Drop In It archive, is how it kind of challenges how we think about what it means to be successful in music. She's got this incredible collection spanning over 30 years, and it really focuses on that raw, unpolished energy of Toronto's underground scene,
Hmm.
which, let's face it, often gets overlooked. Absolutely. It's like she's created this time capsule of a moment in Toronto's history.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't for her, it would be gone.
Hmm.
And her dedication to sharing it with a new generation, especially when you compare it to like the polished algorithm-driven world of Spotify and Apple Music and all that.
Yeah.
It's seriously impressive.
It's a totally different way to experience and appreciate music, I think.
I think so too.
And her approach raises some really interesting questions, too, like about how we value and preserve cultural history. Because, the mainstream music industry, they usually prioritize, like, what's popular, what's commercially viable, but what happens to all those other sounds and stories that exist outside of that?
Right.
Debbie's work reminds us that there's so much more to music than what we hear on the radio, and that these kind of overlooked scenes, they're just as important to document and celebrate.
Absolutely. And it's so cool how Debbie's own story is so intertwined with this whole world. I mean, she's been immersed in Toronto's reggae scene since she was a teenager, attending these parties, navigating the city, becoming part of that Scarborough reggae scene. And you can tell that these experiences really shaped her. So what stood out to you the most about her journey?
Well, one thing that really struck me was her description of the Scarborough reggae scene in the late 70s and 80s, especially, the central role of sound systems. Just for those who might not know, sound systems are essentially these mobile DJ setups. They've got like incredibly powerful speakers, and they were like totally vital to the reggae scene. It was how artists could hone their craft, how they gained recognition, connect with their audience in a way that, just wasn't possible through other means.
Oh, you're right. I should have explained that better. It wasn't just about the music. It was like a whole cultural experience, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't just like a party. It was more like a community hub.
Exactly. And it was all happening outside of like the traditional music industry pathways. So it really challenges our ideas about what it even means to be successful, especially in a genre that's often been kind of marginalized. It wasn't about, record deals or radio play. It was about building a reputation within that community, earning the respect of your peers and the audience.
Right. Yeah, Debbie really highlights how, you know, artists who engaged with the sound systems, they kind of contributed to their own success in a way that like digital platforms just can't replicate today.
Yeah.
Like that direct connection, that real-time feedback, that raw energy exchange.
Yeah, it's like a different kind of relationship between artist and audience.
Yeah.
Less mediated, more immediate. It's like, if you think about it, it's like the difference between seeing a live concert and listening to a recording.
Yeah.
Both are great, but you just can't replicate that energy of a live show.
Right. And she uses Lindo P, who's like a really prominent figure in the Toronto scene, as like a perfect example of this. He came up through sound system culture. And I love how she described him. She said he was the living embodiment of everything reggae entertainment in Toronto stands for.
Yeah. He's such a great example of how the system worked. He's a multi-talented musician, DJ true showman, and his success, not just locally, but, on an international level, it shows how powerful that traditional pathway was. Starting in the sound systems gave him the foundation to build this really impressive career.
Okay, so we've talked about like the heart of the scene, the sound system. So let's zoom in on Debbie's process now, like the actual digitizing of her massive cassette collection. We're talking decades old cassettes here. And she doesn't just upload raw files. She like meticulously restores the audio, edits footage, even pieces together incomplete recordings to create a complete experience for the listener. It's like digital archaeology.
It really is. It requires such a deep understanding, not just the technical side of audio and video editing, but also a nuanced understanding of the music, the context, the culture that it represents.
And it can't be easy. I mean, you're talking about potentially damaged tapes,
Right.
incomplete recordings,
Yeah.
the challenges of even finding the right equipment, the hours spent restoring these like sonic artifacts.
It's amazing. That level of dedication is remarkable. She's not just preserving the music, she's actively making it accessible to a generation that might not even know these recordings exist.
Right.
And she's so resourceful. I was fascinated by how she described merging content from different sources,
Yeah.
like piecing together a puzzle to create a richer, more complete experience for her audience.
I know, it's so cool. It shows the creative side of her work, too. She's not just an archivist, she's a storyteller, using her technical skills and her artistic vision to bring these forgotten moments back to life. So with all this work, who's she sharing it with?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. She's very clear that she's not targeting a mainstream audience. In fact, she believes that only a select few can truly grasp the value of what she's offering.
Hmm. There's something kind of cool about that, though, feeling like you're part of something exclusive, like you've been let in on a secret. But it also raises some questions about accessibility, doesn't it?
It does. It's a tricky balance. On one hand, you want to preserve the integrity of the culture. You want to make sure it's appreciated by those who understand its nuances. But on the other hand, are you limiting the reach of this important history by being too exclusive?
That's a really great point. It's like she's curating a museum for a specific group of connoisseurs. And maybe those who aren't already familiar with the scene might feel a bit lost.
Yeah.
But she's so clearly passionate about her work, you can tell. And she gets a lot of satisfaction from sharing these rare finds with people who can appreciate them on a deeper level.
Absolutely. And that passion is contagious. It's what drives her to dedicate countless hours to this project. And it's what makes her archive so compelling. Even if you're not a reggae expert, her enthusiasm makes you want to dive in and discover this world for yourself.
Absolutely. Speaking of diving in, I want to hear more about the restoration process itself, the nitty-gritty details of how she brings these old recordings back to life. She describes her collection as this vintage vault of restored classics, featuring raw, unedited reggae radio cassette audio, along with her own uniquely extended versions. That sounds pretty amazing.
It does. It's like she's created a museum of sonic history, showcasing the evolution of reggae music through these recordings. And she was saying how she'll find these unfinished and scattered videos online and then merge them with her cassette recordings. It's this incredible blend of digital archaeology and artistic vision.
Wow. It sounds like quite the process. I wonder what specific challenges she faces, working with that old material.
Well, she did mention that a lot of the videos online, they were uploaded by people who might not fully understand the historical significance. And she often has to deal with incomplete recordings, damaged tapes, and just the limitations of working with that old analog technology.
Oh, yeah.
But she seems to really enjoy the challenge. She describes it as a labor of love.
That's so inspiring. And it makes you realize how we present information can have a huge impact on how it's received.
Yeah.
She's not just dumping random files online. She's carefully curating them, adding her own insights and expertise to create a richer experience.
Yeah.
And she's not afraid to get creative with it, repurposing, reusing, and generating content from these random snippets, merging them with her recordings to create something new.
Yeah, it's a great example of how individual passion projects can have such a profound impact. She's not doing this for fame or fortune. She's doing it because she believes in the importance of preserving this music, this history. And in doing so, she's created something truly special.
Yeah, it really highlights the power of individual passion.
Yeah.
How it can ripple outwards. Debbie's not just preserving the past, she's re-envisioning it, creating this bridge between then and now through her unique and engaging edits. And I think that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. It's not just an archive, it's an invitation to experience something unique.
Right.
And to connect with a culture that's just so vibrant and full of life.
It really is, and it makes you wonder what other hidden gems are out there just waiting to be, discovered and appreciated.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it, right? There's always more to explore, more to learn, more to share. Speaking of exploring, I think we should shift gears a bit and talk about the Toronto reggae scene itself. Debbie paints such a vivid picture of this world, especially when she talks about the importance of sound systems. She emphasizes how they were more than just a way to play music, they were a cultural phenomenon.
Okay, so I have to admit, even though we've talked about sound systems a bit already, I'm still curious to learn more about what made them so special. What was it about these systems that made them the heart of the scene?
Well, for one thing, sound systems were the main way for artists to showcase their talents, connect with audiences, and build a reputation. It was a competitive but also incredibly supportive environment.
I can imagine. Debbie talks about attending these sound system events as a teenager, and you can practically feel the energy and excitement in her words.
Mm.
It's like she's transporting us back to those smoky basements and outdoor parties where the music was loud, the vibes were high, and the community was strong.
It was about more than just the music. It was about the shared experience, that sense of belonging, the feeling of being part of something bigger than yourself.
It's interesting to think about how the role of sound systems has evolved over time,
Mm.
right? Especially with the rise of, digital platforms.
Hmm.
Back in the day, it was like the primary way to get your music heard. But now everyone's got a Spotify playlist and a YouTube channel. Do you think sound systems still hold the same weight?
That's a really great question. While it's true that technology has changed the music landscape, sound systems still have a very special place in the reggae world, I think. They represent a tradition, a connection to the roots of the music, and for many artists, they're still a vital part of their journey. Debbie actually mentioned how those who engaged with sound systems, they seem to contribute to their own success in ways that digital platforms just can't replicate. It's that direct connection with the audience, that real-time feedback, that raw energy exchange you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. And, it makes me think about how much we rely on algorithms these days to curate our musical experiences. It's so easy to get stuck in a bubble of what Spotify thinks we want to hear. But sound systems offer something different, something more like organic and unpredictable.
It's about being part of a living, breathing culture, not just a digital algorithm. And I think that's what Debbie's trying to capture with her archive.
And to illustrate that point, she uses Lindo P as an example again. Remember how she called him the living embodiment of everything reggae entertainment in Toronto stands for?
Oh, yeah. He's a perfect example of someone who came up through that sound system culture. He's not just a talented musician and DJ, he's a true showman. And his success, which extends far beyond Toronto, it really speaks to the power of that traditional pathway.
Debbie really emphasizes how he embodies the spirit of Toronto reggae. His love for the music, his connection to the community, his commitment to preserving the culture. It's not just about talent, it's about a deep respect for the roots of the music.
It's really inspiring, his story. He's a role model for aspiring artists, showing them that success is possible if you stay true to your roots and embrace those traditions. Even as the music industry continues to evolve, Debbie even mentioned he's recognized worldwide for his contributions to reggae, so it's definitely not just a local phenomenon.
That's amazing. I'm curious, what did Debbie say about the Toronto reggae sound itself?
Well, she highlighted how Toronto's scene is known for holding its talent to a really high standard.
Yeah.
You really have to earn your stripes and prove yourself within that competitive sound system culture before you can be considered successful.
So it's not an easy scene to break into?
No, not at all.
Mm.
But it breeds a certain resilience and creativity, and it results in a really unique sound. She described it as distinct from other reggae scenes, shaped by the city's diverse cultural landscape and that raw energy of the sound systems.
So it's not just about replicating Jamaican reggae. It's about creating something new, something that reflects Toronto.
Exactly. It's about the fusion of different influences, the blending of traditional reggae sounds with other genres, creating something that's both familiar and fresh. She didn't get into too much detail about the specifics of the sound, but she stressed that it was a sound you could recognize, something distinct and authentic to Toronto.
It makes me want to dig into some Toronto reggae playlists
Good
and see if I
stuff.
can hear what she's talking about. But she also pointed out that even though Toronto is, brimming with talent, much of it remains unseen. Why do you think that is?
She actually touched on a really interesting point. It's not always a lack of talent, but a lack of knowledge about how to navigate the modern music industry. Many of these artists come from the underground scene, where the focus is more on community and collaboration than individual success.
That makes sense. It must be a challenging transition to go from that collaborative environment to the more competitive world of, mainstream music.
For sure. And it highlights the importance of mentorship and support within the scene. Debbie talked about how experienced artists like Lindo P, they have a responsibility to share their knowledge, helping younger musicians develop not just their musical skills, but also their understanding of the business side of the industry.
Yeah, that's so valuable. It's not enough to just be talented. You got to know how to market yourself, build a network, and navigate all the complexities of the music world.
It's about creating a balance, right, between the artistic vision and the business realities. And that's something that's often overlooked, especially by artists who come from more community-focused backgrounds.
It's really inspiring to see how Debbie is using her platform to not only preserve the history of Toronto reggae, but also to support the next generation of artists. She's creating a bridge between the past and the present, ensuring that this legacy continues to thrive.
It's a great example of how passion and dedication can truly make a difference,
Yeah.
in shaping the future of a genre. But I think her story also raises some important questions about cultural identity and representation. For example, how did Debbie, as a young white girl, navigate a scene that was predominantly black?
Yeah, that's a great point. I was wondering about that too. It's a fascinating part of her story for sure. And it speaks to the inclusive nature of the community. She talks about attending parties, riding the bus all over the city, really immersing herself in a culture that was different from her own. It sounds like a real adventure.
It does, and it's a testament to the power of music to transcend cultural boundaries, to bring people together from all walks of life. Debbie's experiences really highlight the welcoming spirit of the Toronto reggae scene.
Yeah, she actually talked about feeling this sense of belonging and acceptance, even though she was often the only white person in the crowd. It's like the music created a space where those differences didn't matter, where everyone was united by their shared love for the rhythm and the vibes.
It's a powerful example of how music can foster a sense of community and shared identity, and it speaks to the heart of reggae music itself, which is all about unity, love, and overcoming adversity together.
She seemed so comfortable talking about those early days, describing herself as a party goer who's deeply connected to the DJs and sound system crews. What else did she share about her experiences?
Well, she talked about, navigating the city, going to parties in different neighborhoods, experiencing the unique vibes of each scene. It sounds like she was on a musical adventure, discovering all these hidden corners of Toronto's reggae world. And she was open about the challenges, too, like getting stranded far from home after a party and having to rely on the kindness of strangers to get back.
It sounds like she really threw herself into the experience,
Yeah,
embracing all the ups and downs that came with it.
she did. And she talks about the DJs with such admiration and respect. She credits them with shaping her musical taste, her understanding of reggae culture, and her overall worldview. It's like they were her mentors, guiding her through this exciting new world.
It's amazing. Like the music became a pathway to something much deeper, a way to connect with people and ideas she might not have encountered otherwise. I'm curious, what did you say about the DJs themselves?
She described them as like natural, authentic enthusiasts who genuinely loved the music and were so passionate about sharing it with others. They were the keepers of the culture, the ones who kept the music alive and thriving.
It sounds like they had a really deep understanding of the music, not just as entertainment, but as a cultural force.
Absolutely. She talked about how they would meticulously set up their sound systems, carefully select each track to create the perfect vibe. It was a real labor of love, a testament to their dedication to the music and their commitment to crafting a memorable experience for the audience.
It's so different from how we consume music today, right? I can't imagine putting that much thought and effort into every playlist I make.
I know, right?
It's almost a lost art.
It is. And she even contrasted their approach to the ease of digital DJing today, where, algorithms and playlists can do so much of the work for you. And while she acknowledged the convenience of digital platforms, she seemed to suggest there was a deeper connection to the music back then, a more tactile and intuitive understanding of the sounds and rhythms.
It makes sense. When you have to physically handle the records, carefully select each track, and adjust the sound system to create the perfect balance.
Right.
You're engaging with the music on a whole other level.
It's much more immersive, for sure. It requires a greater level of investment and dedication. And I think that dedication is reflected in the music itself.
So even though technology has made music more accessible, there's something to be said for that old school approach, right? That sense of ritual and connection that comes with physically interacting with the music.
For sure. You mentioned earlier that Debbie talked about the Scarborough reggae scene as being particularly vibrant and distinct from other parts of the city. What did she say about that? She talked about how the DJs there had a unique mindset, a different way of approaching the music and the culture. It was like they were pioneers, pushing the boundaries of the genre, creating a sound that was both authentic and innovative.
It sounds like they were really shaping the evolution of Toronto reggae, influencing generations of artists, and creating a legacy that continues to this day.
Exactly. And it's a great reminder that cultural movements often start at the grassroots level, right?
Yeah.
Driven by the passion and creativity of individuals who are deeply connected to their communities.
So true, and it makes me appreciate Debbie's work even more. She's not just preserving a collection of recordings, she's documenting a cultural phenomenon, capturing a moment in time that was shaped by the passion and dedication of these DJs.
It's like she's giving a voice to those who might have otherwise been forgotten, ensuring that their contributions to Toronto's musical landscape are recognized and celebrated.
Incredibly powerful. Okay, so we've talked about the history, the sound, the people behind Toronto's reggae scene. But what about the challenges? What did Debbie say about the difficulties of preserving this cultural history, especially in the digital age?
She's very open about the hurdles, both logistical and philosophical. On a practical level, she talked about the sheer volume of material, like decades of cassettes, radio recordings, videos, all in varying states of decay. Just sorting through it all is a huge task, deciding what to prioritize.
Right, it's like trying to organize a library where all the books are falling apart and the labels are faded. Where do you even begin?
Exactly. And then there's the technical challenge of actually restoring the recordings. Debbie mentioned using specialized software to clean up the audio, reduce noise, piece together fragmented tapes. It's super painstaking work. It takes a lot of patience and skill.
I can see why she's so adamant that only a select few can truly initiate what she's doing. It's not just about listening to the music, it's about understanding all the effort and expertise that went into making these recordings accessible.
It's like she's created a secret society of listeners, those who are willing to go deeper, delve into the history in the process.
Yeah, and there's something appealing about that, right? Feeling like you're part of a community that really gets it, like you've been invited into this hidden world.
It's like those speakeasy bars during Prohibition, hidden away, accessible only to those in the know.
Totally. But it also raises questions about who gets to be a part of that community. Debbie is very specific about her target audience, those who recognize and rate, enjoy, and appreciate the value of her vintage vault. It's like she's created this exclusive club, and you need the right credentials to get in.
That's true. It's something to think about for sure. Is there a risk of alienating potential listeners? People who might be interested in exploring this music but don't feel like they have the right background?
It's a tough balance. Preserving the culture versus making it accessible.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe it's about finding ways to bridge that gap. Like create entry points for those who are curious but maybe a bit intimidated.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Like introductory playlists or guided listening sessions,
I like that. Meeting people where they are, offering different levels of engagement. You could have the deep cuts for the hardcore fans, and then more accessible stuff for newcomers.
Right, so it's not about dumbing down the material. It's about creating different paths in.
Exactly. And that's something Debbie seems to be thinking about too. She wants to keep it authentic, but also share it as widely as possible.
It's amazing to think this all started as a personal project, She's not doing it for money or fame. She's doing it because she believes in preserving this music, this history. And she's created this incredible resource, not just for reggae fans, but for anyone interested in Toronto's cultural landscape.
It's so inspiring. It shows what one person can do when they're driven by passion, when they have a genuine desire to share something they love.
And it makes you wonder what other hidden treasures are out there. What other passionate people are dedicating themselves to preserving history? Stuff that might otherwise be lost.
It's a great question. It reminds us that we all have a role to play, whether it's donating to archives, sharing stories, or just being more curious about the culture around us. We can all help keep these traditions alive.
That's such a good point. It's not just about preserving the past. It's about making sure it continues to thrive in the present. Who knows what we might discover if we look beyond the mainstream and embrace the diversity that's all around us. I think that's a great note to end on.
It is. I hope this deep dive has made you curious, maybe inspired you to explore Toronto reggae